All right, so I gave everybody a copy of the agenda and a copy of the solid waste management from '94. So we have three, we have quorum. Do some introductions. I'm Brian Benson, in town for 23 years. 15 of those I've worked for the town. And of that, 5 years I've been solid waste director. Pat McDonough, I was previously on the solid waste committee. They held me over to serve on this one too. I've been in town. Can't count. I can't count backwards since 1996. Whatever that is. That's it. Paul Dennis knew the committee, sat in on a lot of the previous meetings. Just talk about how long we've been here, been talking about 12 years or so.
Anything been down 30 years. Gone.
So I guess the first thing we should do is nominations. Need a chair, vice chair, and a secretary.
I used to chair the select committee of that. Or the select board of that helps.
Oh, that does help.
Okay, if either of you,
I would almost say, they can speak out of turn here, but willing to guess. Starting the committee back up again is probably because of what you said at the town meeting. So,
it,
I think for that reason as well, that works for me.
I appreciate that.
Sure. For nomination for vice chair.
Is that something that you do?
Well,
think?
that's, we had a chair and a vice chair last committee. I don't know that it's required.
And I mean, that's fine, what do you guys wanna do? I just,
Oh, at 4. Right, or 5, how many? 4.
So it's pretty much just so the chair, the vice chair, just kind of
I,
steps on.
anybody can just, I don't think it matters really, but, I mean, if either one of you go for it.
I would say my weakest strength would be secondary. I'm a chairman of it, so. Unless I have to, I really don't, yes. Something vice chairs. And huge impeccable business letter, so, there's.
I'm also pretty good at taking minutes if anyone,
And these don't have to be
they,
permanent.
and they don't, yeah,
If we get more people on the committee at some point.
The people don't know how detailed. Needs to be. All right,
Well, we're gonna be recording everything.
yeah.
So minutes will be, go back, look at something.
refer to the.
Do you want me to take the first slice of the minutes tonight and then
Okay.
we'll see? You said that awkward, but.
I'm easy.
And generally what I do with minutes is after I type them up, I send them out to members to see if there are any before we would, because I know in the town business you have to approve them. But I would ask that people look at them ahead of time to see if I missed or misstated it.
Just draft minutes, just.
Yeah, because I try, but I mean, certainly. So I would do that. And so that means that we'll meet each other's to make sure we have all email addresses.
Yes.
And it might be a good way to keep the people who are not here kind of informed on what to do.
So we have been tasked with, well. How about it, Mr. Plummer has been, working for town for 30+ years. Has, mentioned that he would like to retire. At the end of this contract. Which would be next June. So we need to. Either put an RFP out. Or we can just call around and get estimates. We need that information back by December so we can work it into the budget.
Um. Maybe we could also do somewhat of a hybrid. Because one of the, I used to run an RFP and it's like. But one of the problems that you might have, particularly if we don't have that many vendors on plumber retiring, I'm not sure. People might not wanna do the formal RFP process. Which is fine, and that may cut back our options, and we certainly wanna have all the options that we can. However, it's probably, we're just gonna call around, I think it's incumbent that what we do is have a. Script, and we identify what are the things that are important, what are the things that we're looking for. So that if we're calling around and asking questions. We're getting the same views from all of them, so one of the things I might suggest that. We put on kind of our to-do list is identify what are the important things to happen. What are the things that are critical, have to happen for this to be successful, and are there any nice to haves after? Pricings on stuff, all of that, but probably should have a more formal script than just. Calling out and saying, hey, we need a trash hauler, what do you think?
Yeah.
So,
Could the town award a contract without a formal RFP process?
I don't know, that's a question for the town manager.
I talked to Nicole yesterday, I had a long conversation with her, and she said, yes, that can happen. I think, although let's verify, I mean, we did talk about it, she did anything, she thought, but let's make sure to verify that.
Yeah, I'll do that one day. She's out at a conference this week.
Did we know of any of the other independent guys that will?
So there's quite a few independents out there. That we can reach out to. I have a list of some locals. And we also need to update our solid waste ordinance.
What specifically is the update?
The entire ordinance needs to be going over and at least verified that references are, up to date, and a lot of this comes right out of the state's mandates. So it actually should be a fairly quick process. And again, we need that done by March. So that it can go to the town meeting for a vote.
A couple of questions, you said that state. You referenced that it was state mandates. I know I was able to find a state statute dealing with solid waste, i.e. trash. Which is not very, it just says that the town must facilitate something. It doesn't say what it is or how it is, it can be a town job, it can be a lot of things. But are there other state regulations, etc.?
There are several, and I will provide those to you. And a lot of this is already. Was already reviewed by the solid committee prior to this. So a lot of that is already on the town website under the solid waste department documents.
We went through this.
We didn't go through this, but we went through some of the mandates.
It's like a lot of the different athletes definition. Here's for these, this came straight up, but not the document.
I think one of the things that would be important, I don't know whether former solid waste we did this. But it would be great to get some town population input. And to see so that, we're not just sitting here and even though they can see. But it would be great if we were to somehow figure out whether. There's several ways we could do that, would be, have an open meeting, say, hey, we're. This next meeting of solid waste, to publish it is gonna be comments, we can do surveys, we can do both, which might not be a bad idea.
We did a survey.
Did you?
Was a long, laborious process, several meetings, just formulated questions.
Yes.
That had about 3 months. It was a while, and. Sociology major, we don't like to go to surveys. But your individual bias gets put into.
Oh, absolutely.
So you can almost. Form the answer, the question, so sometimes. It's kind of hard. Kind of an iffy proposition, I think, but not say we can't do it again.
Well, if we do both, then we might, mitigate, because, the other thing is you've got the bias, which definitely. You also have, you want to make sure that you get an adequate sample size and you don't just have, and if you do something online, how do you do it to make sure that one person can't answer it 6 times, and so so there, you're right, there's an awful lot of surveys. I wonder, Brian, can we get a copy of the survey that was done previously?
Yeah,
about the
that
answers?
that is on
Is it on the website?
the website now.
And I can't remember the response we had, I was fairly good. But that was a couple of years ago. Was it easy? Lot, I guess the question to your point, and it's just like, who really answers that? It's just people really care. So I mean, that's, it ties into same, but I never know, so.
There are ways to get around, do some that other stuff, we can get into some of the survey science, but I'm not. We definitely want time, but we should publicize it, but,
I agree.
they're also. I think calling up every resident town is probably beyond our scope. So somewhere in the middle that gets us a good flavor for it,
Yeah, I'll send out an email with the links to the survey and to some of the state documents.
What about user base? How many sections are collected?
I have that information. I mean, I can give you a general amount of press there, John. I have the tonnage every week.
And we keep track of your tax all,
We do, so, but you can't. Because I have people who come in, they'll buy years worth of tickets. At the time, and that band lasting them 2 years. Now it's. To make it some sort of aggregate baseline in the course of the year, but really much best.
Brian, I know it's available, do you also have the revenue versus cost figures?
I do. It's all in my budget.
What is up with
Uh,
that? What are some of we're jumping around. What are some of the other things, I think one task in front of us is to come up with questions, ought to be also to come up with any haulers to get it. Here's the tonnage we expected, we're experiencing. I mean, I'm assuming that the haulers are interested in the miles, how many miles of road they got to. I mean, I don't know that if I were that business, I'd want to know how far I drive. Show down some.
Yeah, you can apply somewhere exhibition. I mean, we have. I believe we have 40 miles of public roads. Town, they service all of them.
What
It does not go down private roads.
does the plumber have that information?
I would think that he would have that, yes.
but maybe it's.
So he has 2 trucks running every Thursday morning. They start at 6 a.m. And they are typically finished around mid. With the town, then they have to take it to West Bath, so it's a. So their day is longer, but as far as being in town, that's typically done by me. So 11, 12 hours. Plus investment.
So, Brian, can you connect with Palmer to get some of that information? And then we'll take a look at it.
Does the town trash have to go to West Bath? It does not. That it goes to West Bath because we are contracted with Plummer to take it to West Bath. So that's something we can change there. Contract.
I'm gonna copy it just about. Yeah. I'm not saying that. We should change from that, it's just whatever the numbers look like.
Right.
So it all comes down.
Yeah.
Brian,
Yes.
I'm assuming. People all told me you're pretty connected with some of your counterparts, other towns.
Yes.
I wonder if we can get some information from them. And it may be too early to ask, but it would probably be us in a couple of ways. First off, are they using someone other than Plummer? What are they doing? You know, what are the options for us? You know, we have different options. And right now, we have a model that is, you know, the vendor gets government had. Do have other options. I'm not sure that other options would work as well for us, but it may be something for us to think about. What do some other towns do with regard to trash and how do they handle it? And is that something we should consider?
I always wonder, is there an option of having a dumpster? That people come and they throw their trip and be someone there to. Take tickets, if that's how we continue to do it. Yeah, you still have to do, obviously, if the big. Can truck it and pick it up. Right.
Well, I think that that's probably a good idea for us to think about, but maybe there are others out there. And maybe, Brian, if you can ask some of your, you know, counterparts in other towns. See how they do it, you know, people starting model, they used to have it on film.
Yeah, so Bowden, you're on your own to find your own trash hauler.
I think we need to be careful about that because the state statute. Or says,
Bristol's the same way.
so I think as I understand the town of Bowden, I may not have it, is that they have a contract with someone and then you have to, as a resident, have to pay that. In other words, they facilitate, because one of the things the state law does say is that the town has to facilitate whatever it is. So the town of Bowden is probably facilitating, there is this trash vendor, you have to connect with them yourself to get it out. But the town of Bowden is probably set up that there is a trash vendor, which may be a model, but I think we need to make sure that. Even if what we're finding from other towns is they're not state statutes. I would feel very uncomfortable as an advisory board advising our selectmen to do something that's not in keeping with state statutes.
Right. The Topsom, they have a compacting dumpster at their transfer station.
Yeah.
Everybody brings it there. You purchase your bags through the town. And I believe Hannaford's also sells them. So they go, they buy the bag and then take it to the transfer station.
So is that something, you know, for some next meeting or something you can. Come up with, hey, this is what they really, you know, here are a couple of models on stuff.
Yeah.
Or is that some of them too?
Or it's a homework, kind of pretty fun to me.
I'm thinking cost wise, it just seems like that would be a less expensive way. But still trucking, obviously, but I don't know. All right, I'm interested. To hear about that.
I think we need to explore, because I think there's also a fine balancing act. Cost wise versus service wise. Would the population, particularly as we've got, I think. 30% of the population is over 60, age friendly. you know, is that big a change in the model, something that the population is really. You know, gonna work well, but with definite acknowledgement, it may be cheaper, and it may be worth it. I think that's a pretty big change that we need to.
Yeah.
To see whether or not, what does the town feel about it?
Yeah.
If I recall correctly, the overall theme for that survey last time was. You like what we have,
Pretty much.
what was that? Yeah. If we can capture that in a sentence.
Yeah. On the on the recycling end of it, it was, you know,
Yeah, that's one thing I know, there was some confusion at town meeting. Solid waste is really got two prongs.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be in our best interest, if we make sure we talk about them separately, recycle prong and trash prong.
I feel pretty strongly, about 90% that the track program should cover itself and users cover that fee in the form of trash, or as much as it possibly can, in the form of the cost of the trash tags. That pays for your trash to get rid of it, so no one else is paying to get rid of my trash. And just because a lot of people with their own personal dumpsters that come and they really, I don't feel comfortable with them paying to get rid of my trash.
If there, yeah, I totally agree. But if there's a ticket price, I know tickets went up, I don't think they went up as much as they needed to cover.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, of course, that's a balancing act
That's-
that you
yeah.
talked about, is
That is,
how much can they go up without?
well, I think if we're able to take a look at revenue versus cost and see. You know, are we only 5% shy or are we 25% shy? And I think there's a real difference. You know, 5% we might be able to say, 25%. I'm sitting right there with you. I don't think it's fair for people that do their own to subsidize to that extent.
And we're just kind of throwing out the ideas on price.
Yeah, I think once we have the numbers from Brian, that'll help us have a better discussion.
But going back to the original thing, it's just to generally update this, I mean, I guess.
Yeah, well, go through it line by line,
Um,
you know, make sure everything's valid and up to date.
One of the things I might suggest on this, I've written several ordinances and policies in my time. And this one's pretty old and it's got there's some issues with it.
Yeah.
One of the things that's an issue that as you take a look at it, this particular ordinance doesn't just talk about what to do, but it also dictates how to do it. And the minute you get into dictating how to do something, you take away flexibility that really might be in the best interest of the town as you move forward. So I would suggest that one of the things going line by line on anything means you're kind of stuck with what they've got as opposed to backing up a little, saying, what is it that we really want to accomplish? And laying out what those parameters are, and then coming up with an ordinance that fits those particular parameters so that we're not, because if you're just amending by lines, you're stuck with this. So I would think, and I mean, ask you guys. What do you think?
I would agree, I mean, to your, what Brian was saying earlier, I think it's Frederick's point in fire contract with Mr. Plummer is that he has to take his trash to West Bath. Why do we know where he takes his trash?
Absolutely.
We can dig wherever we want, as far as I'm concerned, because it's not from the disposal. That's how it works, okay. We pay for the disposal, not Mr. Plum. We pay him to haul it, so he just hauls it and we pay that right now.
But we pay him per bag.
I don't know.
Yeah.
A little bit of attention there.
Yeah, we-
I appreciate the attention.
Yeah, that'll be, that certainly will help. To have that kind of input so that we can have a conversation about that. That said, there's certainly some things in this that, I mean, as we're gonna take a look at and trust me, I've been through it quite a bit. There's some things here where we may just want to see. Just because we might not be, following exactly this, that doesn't mean that everything that's in here is bad. So I would say that we look, but one of the things that I would suggest strongly is that we make sure that we're saying what and not necessarily how. And one of the other things that has happened, and you guys, maybe you've seen this in contracts. I know I've worked with a lot of lawyers in contracts and stuff over the years. And that is in the beginning of some of them, this one has a purpose, but even before purpose, you got, sometimes it's called the whereas section, sometimes it's called the recitals. Where you list things that are important, whereas the state has, a law that says that the town would be responsible for facilitating trash pickup. Whereas, the population of Bodenham believes in protecting the environment through recycling. Some of those kind of things, whatever they are, I'm not saying those are, but that we have something, whereas the town of Bodenham is committed to be age friendly. If you put some of that in, whenever anybody is looking at it, they're able to see pretty quickly. These are the things that are important, and those are the things that should be, in here. For example, I know one of the big concerns is that recycle doesn't pay for itself anymore. And if in fact the town is interested in that for environmental purposes, maybe it's okay if it doesn't pay for itself 100%. Maybe it should pay for itself in a big percent, but maybe not 100%. But if the town, and again, I'm not saying this is the case, I'm saying you need to vet this. If the town is interested in it for environmental purposes, then one of the things that we really need to, and this is for the recycling, really need to look at is are our recyclables not just being shipped somewhere else and, to China to be burned. I mean, but are our recyclables actually, what we're doing actually positive for the environment? Because if we go through a rigmarole for recycling, and yet we find out that in fact it's not doing it, by putting something in the beginning that says the reason we want to recycle to an extent is that it's good for the environment. And if then we figure out it's not good for the environment, people in 10 years can look at it and say, it's not good for the environment, that shouldn't apply, and again, is the town, I mean, how vested is the town in recycling for environmental purposes? Or is the town recycling because if you put stuff in recycling, it lowers the volume of your trash and you're not paying as much for trash tickets? I mean, why does the town want to recycle? And we don't have the answer. That's something that
I think I have a pretty good feel for it.
we probably are gonna be pretty good guessers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it's to save money. I think there's vocal supporters of recycling. Who agree with the environmental, and I'm with that too. I don't want to just throw stuff willy-nilly if it can be used again
Yeah.
for something else. But again,
But then, how much
Where
is
we
that
go.
worth? Where's our break point? And
Yep.
what do we do if we find out that in fact the recyclables are not being, all they're doing is being dumped somewhere, so it's not really helping the environment, then what's the deal there? You can put something in an ordinance that says, our recycle vendor, once a year, we're gonna look for an annual report that says what's the disposition of the materials they get. I think that's probably reasonable, although we would certainly want to ask the recycle vendors if they have something like that. But, and those are the kind of things I would suggest we think about. What's critical that we might want to put, if in fact we want to do a whereas section in the beginning and then go through some of the other stuff. That's it. Again, just based on experience. That may be something that we wanna
I
look at.
have no clue how to write an ordinance or anything, so.
And it's just the nerd. Just partial nerd, you know, you just say.
I did go on a field trip with Brian over to the Casella facility in Auburn. It was awesome, yes, and we saw what they did with the recyclables.
Oh, yeah.
They go through every piece and they said, I mean, it just doesn't get dumped. Well, I assume though, they have markets for all that stuff.
Right.
Because it's such a huge volume here. Because it's pretty fascinating.
And it's interesting, I think one other thing I would ask, I think since we've changed the location of recycling, I think recycling volumes down. I know just, and this is just anecdotal conversations that I've had with people in town that. They don't recycle anymore because they view it as being more difficult. I'm not sure it actually is. But that's kind of the perception, and I would. Yeah, want to get a handle on that, what can we, if it's really important for environmental purposes, what can we do? To make sure that people really are recycling, is it just a perception issue? That needs to be addressed one way, or is it a real issue? Is it more difficult to, go the pond road versus, post road?
And yeah, I hear you, I generally actually think it is a little more difficult. But the reason I think that is all because I live about a mile from the previous. So, now it's instead of 1 minute to get there, it's about 5 minutes. But at that same point in time, I believe this was covered at the last select board, last solid waste committee and select board discussions. There's several locations were about. And Pondo was, I believe, the option. For because the fire station was looked at, the waterfront was looked at, and public works was looked at as most transportation. When all was said and done, it was the public works facility that
There was 5
locations, yeah. So I'm gonna assume that we're pretty much nailed in on locations was like what you were stored with. So, but to your point, I mean, can it be easier from a perception? I guess that
Yeah.
conversation.
I would suggest that the ordinance do not talk about, again, where recycling says on powders or something. As opposed to, we're vested in recycle. And we're gonna leave it up to the town to look at 5 different places and say what the best one is. Maybe we can say things about, recycle facility has to be. Environmental standards, engineering standards, OSHA standards, which, is pretty. Obvious our employees need to be. Treated, they need to have a place, lies with, state OSHA.
Right. So I'm within the scope of this meeting for now, the predators, we. Nail down on that and. Our focus is more just. Your focus is this right here.
The previous committee was the same thing, we're really. Yeah, they're supposed to be talking about.
Right, they were talking. They were getting out, it was what, not where or how, but what.
So, we need to establish a meeting schedule. I know, for me personally, the third Wednesday of the month doesn't work. Other than that, I'm pretty flexible.
Third Wednesday of the month, this work for me, either. What? No.
Fair.
It's not, that's the problem.
Otherwise, third Wednesday of the month would actually work for me, but that's all. I'm very flexible on
Okay,
being.
I can do any other Wednesday.
Right. So we want to stick with Wednesdays.
Our 2 other members,
Yes,
do you have their emails?
I do.
maybe what we do is instead of landing on it. In the minutes, we can put a suggestion that says that and then let them weigh in too, because I would want to make sure that we're accommodating where we can.
Next meeting, regardless.
Yeah, I mean, we need to determine what next meeting is, and then we can work on a schedule then.
What's the? Are we talking once a month or 2 weeks?
Well, that's up to you.
So. Going back to our goals here. AC is the item that needs to be addressed soonest.
Yep.
So does that mean if there was an RFP process, the RFP needs to be in hand on December 23rd, or we just need to have a budget without necessarily hard numbers, and we just need the budget?
Now, I need to have hard numbers. Because we start the budget process January. Pretty much January 1st.
You need a recommendation. But so that means. RFP, whether it's a formal process or a scripted call process,
You know,
Whichever
back on Thursday.
process, it's gonna be, yes. It's gonna be. So what do you? So is that leading you to, that I'm jumping in to meeting more than just once a month? To start off,
We try to think of that, I mean, because to your point here, you back it up. It's August, so we're at month 8. We need to have something done by month 7, if it is going to have full RFP for 30 days. So we have 3 months if we do it in the way we got. 2 meetings until we hit that date, so it seems to start in like. That's, I'm just. Let's see, review.
twice a month.
Right, so what we did previously, it was the second and the fourth Wednesday. But again, if we want to wait for the other committee members,
That would probably be the neighborhood thing.
as we should just worry about the next meeting, then we can schedule it. That'll be a agenda for the next meeting.
So who was putting the agenda, the chair or you?
Well, no, it'll be all one.
I know. Your staff,
But I will make up the agenda for the next meeting.
Great. thank you.
So we want the next meeting on the 4th Wednesday, so. Are we on the 2nd right now? We're on the 2nd right now, so the 4th be the 23rd, August 23rd.
Yeah, I don't.
Read it. Now, I know the email you sent to us, you just had our 3 names on it.
Right, because when I sent that out, I have Paul Tabor's email.
Okay,
I do now.
is that something you can share with me, Paul, on, and who said Mary?
Very standard.
Williams, what?
She's only been,
Going to Florence. Oh, okay, thank you. Okay.
she's only lived in town for 2 months.
Was Paul Tabor?
Paul Tabor. TABOR.
Very.
And I'll send you all the emails out.
Yeah, if you could do that. Just real quick, if you want to just send them to me, and I'll make sure that everyone's on the. Distribution for minutes to go.
Some other business, freedom of access training. Never paid nothing. Yours is probably still. I'll check, I'm sure it's probably still there from last time.
So the form needs to go to Tina,
Tina.
and Tina also needs to swear saying Tina wasn't in this, so the library.
Right, she's out all week.
And then on the form, the Have you all filled out forms already?
I understand the forms.
There was a form in one of the emails, it's a PDF that's attached. There's on one of the emails.
There's state statute and like that.
Yeah, no, it was, I think it might have been the one before that, but there definitely was. A form that was attached, which is why I asked you the name of Leah, I forget what her last name is. Cause the form,
Rach. Either Rach.
yeah, if you put it in an email back to me. That's what the form looks like, and if you watch that. Paul sent me the name, or excuse me, Brian sent me the name of our town attorney, who's the one that was counting that, so you put her name in there. If you can't find it, let me know if you can't find it, it's on one of those emails to work. Names, but if you can't find it, I'll look for it, I'll shoot it to you.
Yeah. But otherwise, it's Tina, sometime you do it.
Yep, so if you haven't been sworn in, please get a hold of Tina. Schedule that.
Like,
You did. Yeah, that's a good committee. And I believe she's out all week also.
Brian, it's a question for you. When you come together as committee, and I might be right, I might have started the conversation, but I'm assuming that the select board asked for this committee to be reinstituted. Does the select board have any input? Was there any discussion when they did that? And I know we probably go back to minute meetings.
Right, so. All the input, the two. Tasks. I received from the town manager.
Okay.
I don't know her interaction, if there was interaction with the select board on this or not.
I wonder if you could pass that, like what the media was, whether there was any discussion. We could certainly go back and watch the stream to see if there was any, or we could, look at the minutes or whatever. Just say if there was anything other than, okay, let's institute this, and, whatever they said is fine, but if they did drop something, it'd be great to know what it was.
I remember hearing. One or two of the select board members questioning whether we needed to have any kind of program call. But hearing that, I don't know.
And, well, we're advisory, so once we do our work, we'll advise them based on what the town says. Also based on. Since state law says there has to be something, the town has to facilitate it. And that's probably a health issue. Because if people are getting rid of trash, that really could be a health hazard, which is probably why the state has that law. But again, the state law, that guidance for you can read it, people's interested. But the state law is very flexible. It just simply says they gotta have this. Anyway, I can find it later, and I will send. I'll send a link to it around there. But basically what it says is that the towns must facilitate some kind of. Okay, each municipality shall provide solid waste disposal services for domestic and commercial solid waste generated within your municipality. And may provide those services for industrial waste and sewage treatment plant sludge. So may provide, you don't have to, but it says each municipal